Hello. It is Thursday, a good day, and I decided to use one of the topic requests. So I did a post in the Defiant Business Facebook group. I think it was just earlier this week, asking for live stream topic requests. If you have one, go ahead and find that post. You can comment on it, or you can DM me, or you can just add it as a post to the Facebook group. But today we're going to be talking about simplifying your message. So if you're like me, or at least like how I used to be, and like how a lot of my clients are when we first start out, you're just like, man, I can do so much. I just have so many things that I could potentially talk about because I have so many things that I do for my clients. And so, what we typically boil this down to is, what does your audience need to know, though? Right? So there's a couple things that you want to focus on. You want to focus on the transformation that you're offering. What's the transformation that you're offering? And usually this is rolled up into your actual offer. What is your offer? What are the pillars of your offer? What are the things that are important? Right? And then finally, the third thing is you want to anchor this into kind of where your ideal client is right now. So in my case, my ideal client is somebody who's been in business for probably a few years at least. And so they're very accustomed to some business jargon. So I don't make an excessive use of jargon, but I do use some because my audience knows those words. Now, if I had an audience that was largely uninitiated, if I was looking at the new business owner, then I would spend a lot of time explaining those definitions and showing and proving that I was somebody that they could trust to help them get their business off the ground. But that's not necessarily where I'm at, is it? Nope. So, one of the things that I will say, so here's an example. Here's an example in my own business in Defy the Status Quo. Did you know that we offer ongoing content services? As in, you can outsource to an extent your content creation to us. Did y'all know that? Let me know in the comments if you knew or if you didn't. But I don't market that. Why? Because my audience doesn't need to know. Because the first thing they're going to do is go through a branding process. Hey, so that is what I focus on. And so when I'm going through an alignment session with somebody and this comes up like, okay, so but like, do you offer ongoing services? And I tell them, I'll say, yes, absolutely we do. But, and that process typically looks like XYZ. But all of our clients always go through the branding process first because, and I use this metaphor a lot, but imagine a Marvel movie and it's got all the budget, it's got all the CGI and the graphics and the pyrotechnics and the noises and all that. All of it's budgeted. And then they fire the writing team and hire a bunch of noobs off the street. That is what it's like to invest heavily in content without getting your branding sorted out, because messaging is part of branding. And so during your branding process, you'll determine based on your why. Well, during my branding process, the build a supernova brand process, you will, once you've anchored into the why and you know who you want to help and you know, okay, this is how I want to help them based on who they are and how I work best in my zone of genius. Once you know those things, then you can look at, okay, what is the journey like for my client? What is their experience like? And again, you can't know everybody's lived experience, but generally speaking, what is their experience like? And how can I tap into that and frame my content around it so they hear what they need to hear, right? And so I can show who I am and how I can help by showing up and arriving in a space where I can give them exactly what they need at that moment. Let's see. Okay, somebody says they know now. Yes, we do offer ongoing content services. But that's kind of my point, is that my audience doesn't necessarily need to know that unless they've already decided, have accepted that a branding process as a first step makes sense for them. If they don't believe that, then it doesn't matter about my ongoing content services because they're not going to get them. Oh, yes, they won't get them. So I don't really talk about it a whole lot because by the time we get to that point of providing ongoing content services, having gone through the branding process, there's basically nothing that I wouldn't know and therefore my team wouldn't know about this particular client's brand. And imagine how much better will be equipped to convey their authenticity in their content. And so that's the piece of it, is that's why I talk a lot about, okay, content and authenticity, but I don't necessarily go into the nuts and bolts of how to create content. That's another thing my audience doesn't necessarily need to know from me. They've been in business for a few years. They probably know it, at least on a surface level, but at the stage that they're at, they are a bit more advanced. So they don't need me to tell them how, the mechanics, how to do something. So I don't spend a lot of time on that. But based on my own content, you can probably imagine that I have quite a bit of knowledge in that area. And so if my clients ask, it's information I'm always happy to give, but it's not something I spend a lot of time talking about. I spend most of my time talking about branding, marketing, strategy, high level stuff, but also how it can be done wrong. Because my ideal client, understanding the psychographics of my ideal client, they care very much about doing what's morally and ethically right, about being in line with their own personal values, making sure their brand also encompasses very strong values and staying in alignment with that. Authenticity rings true for them. And that is why, well, I talk about it because it rings true for me, but it's an important point for me to talk about because authenticity also rings true for my ideal audience, my client, the people who are in my brand sphere of influence, right? Who, those of you who have joined me in this collective consciousness that is the brand. So that, I mean, simplifying the message seems difficult when it's your message and you've got a lot of things going on. If you can do a lot of things, you need to transcend your features and then look at your benefits, and then transcend your benefits and look at the transformation. Okay. Your why, people don't necessarily need to hear about it all the time, but your why is energy and emotion that will infuse the transformation here at the pyramid. When you're talking about that content, that energy and emotion will infuse all of your content, or it should. And just as the same, your offer and your audience, those types of developmental profiles and understandings will also kind of guide you and make and help you understand exactly where it is you should be creating content, what you should be creating content around. But don't spend time talking about features. Spend less time talking about benefits and focus more time on like the ultimate transformation. Use the benefits to highlight the ultimate transformation. Features, we don't really care about features. Who cares about features? Like I work with Sylvia, and Sylvia manages my social media, right? She's part of my team. And she's like, hey, so let's use a different social media platform. Okay. Like you tell me which one we're using. Like, I don't care about that. Like, so a feature for me isn't, oh, we use this platform, so XYZ. Like, I don't care about that. Honestly, I never want to see that platform. I hope to never see the inside of that platform. That's how little I care about that. You know what I do want to see? I do want to see my content transformed and put up on social media channels. And I am just as pleasantly surprised as everyone else. But again, she doesn't talk. I mean, she never talked to me about features. She was like, hey, so just letting you know, we're switching over to this different platform, just keeping you updated. I'm like, cool. That's the transformation right there. I don't even have to manage that. That's the transformation I was looking for, not somebody who's got a bunch of cool features and tools. So just keep that in mind. Ask yourself, what does your audience need to know? What can you say to meet them where they are? And if they don't need to know it, don't confuse them by talking about it. If they ask you, totally different, small platform, maybe it's one-to-one, one-to-few, and you're kind of talking more about things, again, totally different. But in terms of your open-faced marketing, the marketing that's just out there for anybody to see, keep it focused. Focus on what they need to know and what they need to hear, where they are at, and how you can reach them authentically, being you. All right, that's it for today. We had a new podcast episode go up. Funny, I mentioned Sylvia because it's Sylvia's episode. So do be sure to check that out on the Defiant Business podcast. And don't forget, we've got 6 seats left for the Why workshop on Tuesday. So if you are going to grab a seat, please do so soon. They just keep selling every day since I announced it this week. So hope to see you there. Bye.